Alright, so we open on this scene of a ferocious beast facing a warrior, and a whole pack of wolves is staring us down. Their leader is this absolute monster of a wolf, with glowing gold eyes and some serious fangs. They have someone surrounded, and a voiceover asks you who do not possess sharp fangs or strong claws, and the figure stands up, revealing this huge armored creature with red glowing eyes. The voice asks, "What is your weapon?" The wolves do not seem to care how big he is. They just start howling and getting ready to charge. And the fight is on. This armored guy just starts tearing through the pack like it is nothing. He crushes a wolf under his massive claw. The text says blood, sweat, bones, and flesh, but the alpha wolf is not backing down. It snarls with this white smoke coming out of its mouth. It leaps through the air, going straight for the armored guy's head, but he just snatches it out of the air by its jaw. That is some insane strength. Then he bites down on the wolf's neck. The text says, "I devour the corpses of my enemies," and he rips its head clean off. The voice finishes, "And make them my weapons." Holy, what a brutal power. Okay, so now we get a little lore drop. Animals with supernatural powers were called spirit beasts, and a number of these spirit beasts were given human forms by the gods, becoming incarnations. However, there were also evil incarnations who were intoxicated by their power. Like this massive black dragon. The text says these were called demons by humans, and we get a close-up on that terrifying dragon eye. Then the scene cuts completely. We are in a forest now, and someone is running for their life. Just a shot of their feet hitting the dirt as they sprint. We see his face. It is a young guy with red hair. He is all beat up and crying out someone. He is running desperately through the trees, but we see a crossbow aimed right at his back. He is being hunted. And a crossbow bolt slams right into his back. A direct hit. We see the hunters who shot him, a group of rough-looking guys led by a bald dude who says more than thought. They walk over to the kid's body. The leader says to grab anything useful and head back to camp, but one of his men notes that for some reason the forest feels especially eerie today. Another guy jokes about the forest beast rumor until someone suddenly yells, "Hey, wait a minute." He points forward and says the bodies of the animals are, and we see a clearing just littered with dead wolves. They wonder if it was a territorial dispute, but another guy says it looks like they were slaughtered one-sidedly. The bearded guy who spotted them calls for someone named Martin to come over. He has found the body of a spirit beast, and there is a person just sitting slumped against the massive corpse. The group gathers around, noting it looks like the leader of the wolf pack. And they wonder what this person is doing here. One of them asks if a man could have killed the spirit beast, but another just calls that a ridiculous idea. The leader reaches for the body, saying they should just look for something useful on the dead guy, but he stops short, a look of pure shock on his face, because a little red lizard creature is biting his leg, growling at him. The bald guy. Martin is trying to shake it off, yelling, "Let go of me." The leader just laughs and pulls out a dagger, telling Martin he is going to tear the lizard in half. But his eyes go wide in terror. He sees something. The guy who was slumped against the wolf is now standing, holding Martin's arm. Wait, he is alive. And he throws a punch right into Martin's face. The punch connects with so much force that Martin's head just explodes in a spray of red. Oh my god. One of the hunters screams hands, and our guy looks up with pure menace saying, "Do not you dare to touch it without permission." He stands fully revealed now holding this massive double-bladed axe with the little lizard at his feet, and he just says, "I will kill you." The rest of the hunters are just frozen in shock looking at the scene. One of them stammers out, "You want to kill us." The bearded leader is losing his mind, yelling, "What is this?" He killed Hands. Oh okay, so the bald guy's name was Hands. They all just stare at our guy, who is completely calm, and one of them tries to act tough saying, "Why you scoundrel? Do you think you can get away with such actions?" The leader finally snaps out of it and yells, "Everyone surround him," while thinking to himself, what a bunch of idiots. He gives his men a chilling warning, "If there is anyone who will grieve for you after your death, step back now." Our guy gets into a fighting stance with this crazy red aura flaring up. He says, "Because when I cut anything other than animals, my dreams will be restless." The leader does not care one bit. He just screams, "Kill him," as he and his men charge forward. And our boy just hefts his giant axe, ready to swing. It is absolute carnage. He becomes a whirlwind of death, just tearing through them with these massive red slashes. We see the aftermath of his first swing. A guy is screaming about his arm getting chopped clean off. The bearded leader can only watch in horror as his men get slaughtered. He mutters he is a monster, but the crossbow hunter from before is not backing down. He grits his teeth and says, "This bastard." He yells, "That is it." And we see him and the other crossbowmen all take aim. Our guy looks up, and the little red lizard is now on his shoulder, looking right at the archers. The crossbow leader gives the command, "Fire." A volley of crossbow bolts flies straight at them, but the little lizard leaps in front of the attack, and the hunter yells, "What?" The lizard's head expands into a massive fleshy shield, blocking every single bolt. No way, this little guy is amazing. The crossbow leader looks on in shock, asking if he is dead, but a powerful red energy starts to flare up from where the bolts hit, and this energy erupts into the forms of countless screaming demonic beasts. The power just keeps expanding outwards in a wave of pure red malice. The remaining hunters are caught in the blast, one of them screaming, "D-demon." We see a single glowing red eye open within the swirling chaos, and the bearded leader's eye goes wide with absolute terror. The demonic energy suddenly vanishes, leaving our guy kneeling on the ground. He is completely exhausted, gasping for breath as his little lizard friend looks on. Sometime later, we see him walking through the forest carrying the massive wolf on his back. He arrives at the gates of a fortified village as the sun sets. An old man with a fur cloak who looks like the leader says, "I cannot believe it." He is staring at the corpse of the spirit beast wolf, now loaded onto a cart. He asks, "You did all of this alone?" And we see our guy is now chained to a post. The little red lizard peeks out from behind the post and says, "Hey." The elder looks at the wolf corpse and tells our guy burning that right away would be good for you. Another man yells, "Tear him to death," but the elder holds up a hand to stop him. The elder asks stranger, "What is your name?" And our guy replies, "Ananta," when asked why he did it. Ananta just looks up and says, "I was hungry." The elder is just speechless. His subordinate says, "Sir, there is no need to hear more." The subordinate shouts, "We all saw him with our own eyes, the way he transformed into a giant beast." He brings up the rumors of a demon that feasts on the dead near the mountain, but he argues, however, this person certainly looks human no matter how you look at it. He points to the wolf corpse and yells, "Look, the scars on the bodies, are not they all signs of being eaten?" He declares he is definitely a demon with a mask. The elder just starts laughing. His subordinate is furious, asking what is so funny. The old man gets serious and says, "If what you are saying is true, then it is ridiculous to think that you can be safe by simply chaining up a demon which even devours spirit beasts." Ananta looks up with glowing yellow eyes and a wicked smile. Oh boy, we see the thick ropes tying down the wolf's body. Ananta looks up at the moon and says, "You do not know anything." As a bird flies overhead, he adds, "You do not even know what the beast eats." And then something splatters right across the elder's face. He looks up in shock, covered in blood. The wolf corpse on the cart rears up and roars, its eyes glowing red. The elder screams, "Tee the corpse." Ananto explains that it is an evil spirit corpse, a minion of a demon, so it is a zombie wolf. The alarm starts blaring through the village. Emergency, emergency. A whole pack of undead wolves is charging the gates, and a guard yells the demon is attacking, and in the middle of the pack stands a massive humanoid figure. We get a close-up on this thing. It is some kind of terrifying deer monster with a skull for a face. That must be the real demon. The deer demon looms over the chaos, its skull face just radiating pure evil. A guard screams no, they are getting over the gate as the zombie wolves start scaling the walls, and they are in. The wolves pour through the gates and start tearing the guards to pieces. It is a complete slaughter. One guy gets absolutely swarmed, his screams echoing through the village. The whole place is going up in flames, a wolf leaping through the fire like some kind of hellhound. We see the full extent of the destruction. The village is burning to the ground. The deer demon stands in the middle of it all, raising its hand as the people scream in terror. It slams its hand down, commanding the wave of fire and death. We just get a close-up on the fangs of one of these undead beasts. The deer demon looks on, its glowing eye completely devoid of any emotion. But then we cut back to Ananta, still chained up, and the text says hunger and thirst. A massive red aura erupts from his body. The text continues rise up in a swarm. He shatters his chains, transforming into that massive armored creature from the beginning, blood and sweat. We see his glowing red eyes. The text says bones. Wait, this is the same phrase from before. He stands fully transformed, towering over the deer demon and flesh. He is an absolute monster, a walking engine of destruction. The text finishes devour everything, and there he is, Ananta in his full beast form just staring down the path of destruction he is about to walk. The deer demon stands at the other end, looking like a twig in comparison, and it says, "I will distort it." Ananta just lets out a deafening roar. The text says with the look of a prey facing death, oh, he sees this demon as nothing more than food. He takes a step forward and just stomps one of the zombie wolves into the ground. The undead creature shrieks as it is completely crushed under his foot, and then he is off, a massive blur of red and black charging through the flames. The rest of the undead wolf pack rushes to meet him head-on. They leap through the air trying to swarm him from every direction. One of them manages to latch onto his arm, sinking its teeth in. But Ananta just unleashes this massive pulse of red energy from his body. The blast sends the wolf flying, completely overwhelming it. He becomes a vortex of claws and death, tearing through the pack. He slices another one of the beasts clean in two with a single swipe. The deer demon has seen enough. Its eyes glow with this eerie purple energy as it says die. It throws its head back and roars, summoning this swirling dark power. The shadows twist and writhe around its body, making it look even more monstrous, and then it leaps high into the air, diving straight down at Ananta for a death blow. But Ananta meets the attack head-on, a massive explosion of claws and blood as they collide. We get a close-up on Ananta's face. He is roaring, completely lost in the battle. The two monsters are locked together. The deer demon's claws are buried in Ananta's shoulder, but Ananta's are digging right back into its chest. Ananta grips the deer demon's skull with his glowing red hand and just starts to squeeze. The demon's glowing eye widens in shock as the pressure intensifies, and with a sickening rip, Ananta tears the demon's entire head and spine clean from its body. The headless corpse crashes to the ground, completely defeated. The massive red aura around Ananta begins to recede, swirling back into him. He shrinks back down to his more human form, still looking feral and panting from the exertion. The corpse of the deer demon lies steaming on the ground. Ananta turns and walks away from the carnage without a second glance. But then we see someone else, a woman with white hair lying amongst the rubble. He walks over to her and holds out a hand. She looks up at him, her hands trembling as she thinks to herself, this person. She realizes he was the one who saved her, thinking was unconscious since the beginning. Ananta just picks her up and starts carrying her on his back through the smoke, but suddenly his eyes flash yellow. He senses something. A massive black and red slash of energy comes flying right at him. It came from a gigantic demonic bird descending from the sky. Ananta lands a short distance away, still carrying the woman. He looks up at the new threat, bloody and exhausted, and asks who is it. The giant bird lands before him, its purple eyes glowing as it asks, "Are you the real demon that devoured the dead body?" And then its body begins to twist and morph, surrounded by a dark purple aura. Oh great, another one, and the bird's body morphs into this pale, vampire-looking guy with a massive feathered cloak. He says, "Believe it, I never thought you would even take down my precious puppet," and reveals he has been watching Ananta this whole time. The woman on Ananta's back looks up and asks what on earth for. She and the old village elder are just completely stunned by this new development. But Ananta just stands there totally unimpressed, saying, "I feel like sleeping just by listening to your blabbering." The new demon glares at him as Ananta continues, "I have no interest in the soliloquy of a beast." Then he gives him the "come here" finger with a bloody grin, telling him, "Come at me, I will beat you to death." The demon's hand shifts back into a massive bird talon as he says, "My power." He reveals his ability is to control the spirit of the dead. Okay, so he is a necromancer. His plan is to kill you and put you under my control, saying he will get a puppet even stronger than the dear demon. He spreads his wings wide, unleashing a wave of purple energy, and yells now become a specter, and all around them, the corpses of the wolves start to rise again, their eyes glowing with that same purple light. It is not just the wolves either. The dead villagers are getting up too. Oh no, the bird necromancer stands before his newly raised army of the dead. He screams at Ananta be crushed and swallowed by the sea of undead. As the whole horde charges forward, one of the zombie wolves lunges right for Ananta's throat, but he just punches a clean hole straight through its head. He is immediately swarmed by the undead villagers though, getting stabbed with spears from all sides. The bird demon just laughs maniacally, taunting him, "Do not you have any strength left to squeeze out anymore?" And we see Ananta completely surrounded and being dogpiled by the undead horde. This is not looking good for our guy at all. The bird demon looks down on him completely unimpressed and asks, "Why do not you spit out a desperate cry once?" But Ananta just looks up with a bloody mouth, and he starts to laugh, a deep guttural laugh that echoes through the burning village. A massive pillar of red energy erupts from his body, a monstrous silhouette forming within it. The energy surges upwards like a volcano, taking the shape of giant wings. The bird necromancer looks down in total shock. Stuttering T this is. We see the reflection of a terrifying red beast in his eye, and there it is. Ananta has transformed into some kind of multi-headed hydra beast, and he just asks what. He throws the demon's words right back at him, saying, "Why do not you try howling like a beast just once?" One of the giant mouths sprouting from his back opens wide, and it snaps shut on the bird demon mid-air. The necromancer lets out a horrifying scream as a huge chunk of his body is just ripped away. He falls from the sky completely defeated, as the entire undead horde looks up in shock. But then this red energy starts to swirl around them, pulling them in. The bodies of the undead are being torn apart and absorbed into the vortex. The white-haired woman just watches this all happen. She is sitting on the ground, completely stunned by the scene before her. From her point of view, it is just a massive black and red vortex of pure destruction. She looks on in a mixture of terror and awe. And in the center of it all stands Ananta, absorbing the entire army of the dead into himself. All that raw power starts to condense back into Ananta's body, and the white-haired woman can only stare in disbelief at what she just witnessed. The massive red aura completely vanishes as he shrinks back down to his normal size. He stands there, bloody and exhausted, his back to her. He turns around, his eyes are glowing yellow now, and he asks, "Have you been freed from the control of the demon?" She clutches her head, looking like she is about to pass out from the mental strain. Then she sees a vision of these brilliant white wings as she says, "I see." The vision is so bright it almost looks holy. She whispers, "Two shining wings," and Ananta's eye widens. He knows exactly what that means. The woman looks up as if she is remembering something important, asking, "Could it be?" Ananta looks at her with this newfound understanding and asks, "You too are?" He finishes his question, "A victim of wings?" She just looks back at him, totally confused, and asks, "What exactly are you?" And the answer comes in a single word, Ananta. Then we get this epic reveal. He is the descendant of the Black Dragon and a survivor, and his purpose is to be the one who will devour all the demons in the world, and finally, his ultimate goal is to kill the incarnation of wings. The woman is still on her knees and says, "I do not understand anything you're saying." Ananta clarifies, asking if she is talking about the Black Dragon or the incarnation of wings. She is completely lost, her eye wide with confusion. She grabs her head, clearly overwhelmed by everything that is happening. Ananta seems to understand, saying she is mentally exhausted from all the information. He looks at her with his intense yellow eyes, like he is seeing something else entirely, and suddenly the world around her turns blood red. It looks like we are in a vision. She turns her head, looking absolutely horrified. She looks back at whatever is in front of her. The headless corpse of the deer demon comes falling out of the sky. It crashes down right in front of her. A huge wave of blood just explodes outwards, drenching her completely, but instead of screaming, she is smiling through the blood. What is this? We see the back of her head as she stares out at the carnage. It is a literal river of blood filled with countless dead bodies, and just like that she snaps back to reality, letting out a terrified scream. Then a new vision appears before her, a massive angelic figure with glowing white wings. She stares up at it, her face a mixture of awe and terror. And then we see this massive, unsettling grin. It is her. She's on the ground licking her lips with a completely unhinged look in her eyes. Oh, she is not a victim. She is something else entirely. And just like that, she is awake. A girl with pink hair looking down at her says, "Oh, you are awake." The girl is super chipper, saying you were in a lot of pain the whole time you were asleep. I think you had a nightmare. The white-haired woman looks up at her and just says, "Ruby." Then we cut to Ananta standing next to a huge red serpent, and he just gives the command start. The serpent's mouth opens wide, glowing with fire, and it unleashes a massive stream of fire across the land. The whole area is just engulfed in a sea of flames. We see the silhouette of some giant monster being completely incinerated within the inferno. The flames burn even hotter, turning a deep crimson. Ananta just watches the destruction with a grim look on his face, and we are back with Ruby, who is smiling sweetly, saying the monster that was possessed by the demons has been dealt with. She looks up at a shadowy Ananta and tells him, "You have worked very hard again this time," but then he just grabs her head and she lets out a little ouch. He glares down at her, calling her a lousy info dealer, while she just giggles nervously. He says, "Your faulty information cost me even more this time," as the white-haired woman watches them completely confused. He lets Ruby go and demands the deal is done. "Pay my fee now," and she looks totally shocked. She bows her head apologetically, saying, "You're still angry if it is not too much trouble." Then she turns to the white-haired woman and asks, "May I ask for your name?" "Avatar." The woman looks a little hesitant, but she answers, "Nadia." Ruby looks at her with a knowing smile and says, "I cannot believe there is another victim of the same wings as Ananta," and Nadia is just stunned into silence. Ananta looks back at them and just yells, "Hey," but Ruby the bunny girl just smiles and says he has a hasty personality while holding up a pocket watch. The watch glows with a complex magic circle. Wait, what is she doing? And a giant hole just opens up in the ground right under their feet. All three of them are sent plummeting down into the darkness. Nadia is screaming as she falls, which is a pretty fair reaction. She looks completely terrified, but then she blinks her eyes open, looking confused. And she finds herself standing before a massive, gorgeous tree with a city built around it. She is in awe, and Ruby pops up beside her saying, "A clever rabbit digs 3 holes," they say, and that she is late to introduce herself. She explains she is a member of the continent's largest information network. Rabbit's paw and her name is Whitefoot. She says, "I have had a long working relationship with Ananta over here, you could say," while he just scowls in the background. Ruby explains that this place is cafes, the largest trading city in the south, and the giant tree is a sacred tree called the White Lotus Tree. She points up and starts to say who lives at the top of the tree, but Nadia has had enough and just yells stop. She turns to Ananta and says, "I am grateful for saving me from the control of the demon. However, I do not want to listen to your one-sided stories anymore." She looks him dead in the eye and demands, "Before you continue the conversation, please answer my question first. Why did you bring me to this unknown city?" Ananta's response is just a blunt "shut up and follow me." As he starts to walk away, he glances back over his shoulder, telling her, "I will show you why I brought you here." As they walk through the city streets, Ruby asks him, "Ananta, before that, what kind of person is the incarnation of the wings you're chasing?" And Ananta just scoffs with a look of pure hatred, saying, "A disgusting beast, who mistakes himself for a god." Ruby chimes in, explaining just like how the avatars have been granted human form and power, the incarnation of the wings can also grant others powerful powers, and we get this flash of a terrifying red bird demon. As she says it is a power that cannot be known, Nadia looks completely unsettled by this, and Ananta just says, "We have arrived." They step into what looks like a dark and grimy part of the city. And oh, I see chains. Yeah, this is not good. We see people being led around in chains like cattle. One young woman looks absolutely terrified, clutching a little box to her chest. Ananta turns to Nadia and says, "Welcome to the slave market of cafes." Nadia. Ruby explains that for some reason this slave market has been growing rapidly, filled with all sorts of people caught by slave hunters. And it is not just people. We see this huge, majestic white tiger with glowing blue eyes. It is locked in a cage, being sold off. Ruby says they even sell spirit beasts. Nadia looks horrified and asks, "What does this place have to do with the incarnation of the wings?" Ananta does not answer. He just shoves her forward. She tumbles down a flight of stone stairs into a dark chamber. She hits the ground hard, letting out a cry of pain. As she pushes herself up, she looks around the dark room and her eyes go wide. The room is filled with people, all of them just sitting there looking broken. We see the hopeless face of a man with long blonde hair and a woman with fear in her eyes. Nadia is completely stunned, whispering sacrifice. Ananta stands over her at the top of the stairs and says they are living sacrifices to be offered to the incarnation of the wings. He continues explaining that they are victims of a human sacrifice that takes place at the top of that sacred tree. And we get this horrifying vision of the tree's branches filled with countless hanging bodies against a blood-red sky. He looks at a horrified Nadia from behind a set of bars and says, "You must be bait to hunt the incarnation of the wings." His glowing yellow eyes stare intensely as he finishes his sentence with "just like them." Ananta looks back at Ruby the info dealer and says, "Leave the rest to me," and she just gives this super cheerful okay. He turns and starts walking up the stone steps, about to leave her locked in here, but Nadia screams, "Wait," and Ruby looks back at her with this knowing little smile. Nadia is gripping the bars of her cell, asking the people here, "Are you responsible for all of this?" Ananta glances back with a snarl, asking her if that is the case. What are you going to do? Oh, she is not having that. She screams at the top of her lungs, do not play around. She yells at him for using innocent people as a means to achieve your goals, and she finishes her question with do not you feel any guilt, as we get a close-up of his cold, unfeeling eye. He turns away from her again, saying because revenge cannot be achieved. And he finishes his absolutely brutal line with, without dirtying your hands, leaving Nadia completely stunned. She grips the bars tighter, shaking with rage as she says, I cannot tolerate it. But then Ruby turns to her and agrees, saying you are speaking the truth. Wait, what is her angle here? She continues, I cannot help but imagine the terrible fate that awaits those pitiful humans. A fate, she says, is at the hands of the wicked avatars. And then she wipes away a fake tear, saying it brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it. This girl is a total psycho. I love it. Nadia calls her disgusting and asks, do you think I will willingly be used by you? While Ruby just lets out a little hee-hee. Then Ruby hits her where it hurts, reminding her you have been killing countless humans under the control of a demon. You probably do not care about a mere few lives, and Nadia flinches hard. Ruby keeps going. Even if it was not your own will. And we see this flash of a blood-soaked battlefield. Nadia looks horrified, stuttering no, that is. As Ruby's voice finishes the thought, those things cannot be undone. And Ruby gets this sinister smile as she grabs a huge lever, saying it is not up to me and Ananta to face the wrathful blade. Okay, what is she about to do? She stands in a doorway and declares our common enemy is none other than the wicked avatars. The scene shifts to a dark stone corridor where guards watch over a lone figure. We see Ananta sitting down, and he looks absolutely furious, and it is Ruby who is talking to him, saying I think you're saying unnecessary things. She stands beside him with that creepy smile, explaining those offerings are unrelated to Ananta. Ananta just looks up and asks what happened to that guy. Ruby says I managed to get Nadia's cooperation, as we see a line of people being led away. And there she is, Nadia, roped up with the other sacrifices, looking completely resolved. She stares ahead with cold determination as Ruby explains they are being escorted by the Guardians of the Wings. They are all walking towards a massive temple, and Ruby says all preparations to hunt the Avatar are now complete. She continues explaining that they have placed spies inside the temple, which was previously protected by the White Lotus tree's barrier. And apparently Ananta is going to join an arena, because the winner gets a branch from the tree and a meeting with the Avatar. Ruby smiles to herself, thinking that the whole process was a bit too complicated. She thinks about Ananta's demonic form, knowing he could have just slaughtered everyone to get attention. But as she watches him, she notes that even with all his rage, he never crossed a certain line. She wonders if he is actually distinguishing between monsters and humans. She calls him a contradictory revenge demon, one who is picky about his methods. Ananta suddenly stands up, saying I can hear the sound of the bowl rolling from here. He grabs a massive bloody axe, saying it will be good exercise after a meal. But Ruby just tells him to give up his useless thoughts and watch from the sidelines. Ananta looks back over his shoulder holding two axes and says, watch me. He finishes his thought with hunt down the beasts. While Ruby just watches with a smug little grin, she tells him I hope you refrain from doing anything conspicuous, warning that variables might arise if he attracts attention. Ananta steps out into the arena, Ruby peeking from behind him as he just says I will consider it. And we immediately hear a commander yelling shield wall. A whole line of warriors forms up with shields and spears, ready for battle. They are facing off against a massive leopard-like spirit beast with glowing eyes. The leader of the warriors shouts, do not falter. He yells for them to maintain the formation, but one of his men just goes, huh. Because Ananta is just casually walking right through their shield line, knocking them aside. Another gladiator asks him, hey, what are you doing? And Ananta just says, you are bothering me, you brat. The giant leopard roars and lunges right at him, but Ananta just swings his axe in a massive bloody arc. The crowd is stunned into silence, and of course Ruby is just loving every second of this. The beast is on the ground, bleeding everywhere as Ruby says really. You are in trouble, it seems. The warrior leader just yells unbelievable. He cannot believe that a mere human is overpowering a spirit beast. As the leopard trembles on the ground, Ananta's eye glows a menacing red as he glares down at the wounded creature. He slams his axe into the ground, cracking the arena floor. And then he leaps into the air, ready to bring both axes down for the finishing blow, and he brings both axes down in a brutal red flash, completely demolishing the poor beast. The entire crowd is just frozen, jaws on the floor in complete shock. His axe is just dripping with blood. The spirit beast is done for, and Ananta stands over its body. But then he stops, looking up from the arena floor and says, wait. He is staring straight at the giant tree, and he growls, I will soon devour your flesh while you are still alive. The scene shifts to that same massive white lotus tree, glowing with power, and at its base, a huge set of temple doors begins to creak open. The doors swing wide, revealing a dark entrance. We cut back to Nadia, who is walking with the other sacrifices, and she looks pissed. They are being led down a long stone hallway, and she thinks to herself, oh, terrified people. But then her eyes lock onto someone at the end of the hall as she thinks this person is. A small bird flies down and lands gently on an outstretched hand. A man with long silver hair smiles softly, telling the sacrifices to gather your fears. He welcomes them with open arms, saying, "We sincerely welcome your visit to the Shrine of Yo." And Nadia realizes, this is him, the avatar of the wings. So Ruby starts explaining the whole deal to Nadia, saying that the purpose is unknown, but the avatars of the wings have made their nest here and are seeking offerings. And apparently, those who offer sacrifices to the temple will gain the right to participate in the arena. Warriors who prove their worth against powerful spirit beasts are then granted branches of the White Lotus tree. She lays out the plan, saying they will infiltrate the temple disguised as offerings to get through the enemy's defenses. Ruby finishes her little briefing with a cheerful smile, asking Nadia that is the outline of the operation. Do you have any further questions? And Nadia, from behind her bars, asks why does Ananta want to kill the avatars of the wings? Does it have something to do with the power he possesses? Ruby just stands in front of the cell, saying it seems difficult to explain the details. But then she looks towards a vision of a burning battlefield, saying, however, one thing I can mention is. She turns her head slightly and says, there is a being called the Vengeance Incarnate. And we get this absolutely brutal flashback of a young boy, screaming in agony while holding a dead body. Man, that must be Ananta. Then we cut back to the present, where the Avatar is addressing the sacrifices, telling the terrified people to lift your heads and seek salvation. One of the men in the crowd looks up in total awe, whispering is that, "Oh my God." The silver-haired man smiles down at them and says, "I am the saint who receives the adoration of all people." Yeah, I do not trust this guy one bit. He continues his speech, calling himself the sacred owner of the White Lotus tree. He spreads his arms wide as light shines down on him, announcing, "I am Baltsekal Genie." He looks down on the crowd and Nadia, saying, "Oh, you who receive merciful consideration as offerings." He tells them to now prepare yourselves to enter the realm of liberation in silence. That sounds super sketchy. And he finishes with this creepy smile, saying, "Entrust your bodies to the wings of salvation." But one of the sacrifices suddenly runs forward, yelling out, "Oh, avatar of the wings." She drops to her knees, begging him show mercy. "Save my innocent sister." The avatar Baltsak just looks down with this smug little grin as she begs, "Please, at least spare my sister's life." He extends a hand towards her and says, "Oh, beautiful people, express your dedication with noble hearts." The sister who was just saved looks up with so much hope in her eyes. She whispers, "Thank you." And then she just explodes in a spray of blood. What the hell? Her sister is just frozen in shock, covered in blood. The crowd behind her completely panics, yelling, What happened? She is dead," while Nadia just stares in disbelief. Baltsek looks down on the chaos, saying in the face of death, "All are equal." He casually crosses his legs on his throne of roots, continuing, "Your sister has just been liberated from fear and pity." He finishes his twisted logic with, "Soon she will be able to join Nirvana." This guy is a monster. We see Nadia in the crowd, and she is absolutely seething with rage. She takes a step forward, and this dark, shadowy energy just starts pouring out from her. The energy forms into this terrifying spectral deer skull with glowing blue eyes. It looms behind her, growing larger and larger. Baltsek looks down, almost bored, as Nadia says, "You are not a savior." Her eyes are now glowing bright blue. The dark energy swirling around her face, she glares at him, saying, "Just a heartless murderer." As Baltsek realizes there must have been an avatar among the offerings, the dark power completely engulfs Nadia's body as Baltsek says the name Yggdrasil. He then yells out another name, Cernun. As Nadia glares back, her transformation almost complete. The other sacrifices are losing their minds, screaming, "Eek, Mo monster." The shadow of this massive beast looms over Nadia as she fully unleashes her power, and we get a flash of Ruby's words echoing in her mind, "Even if it was not your own will, those things cannot be undone." The avatar Baltsek just tells her, "Do not resist," as Nadia's glowing blue eye stares back. But then we see a memory, a silver-haired boy comforting a crying girl. Wait, is this Baltsek's memory? Nadia's expression completely changes. She is actually smiling now, a calm and confident smile. And then roots just erupt from the temple floor. Her power is called Yggdrasil. The roots shoot out and instantly wrap around all of the guards. They are all pulled into a massive tangled ball of wood, neutralizing them in one move. Nadia stands with a staff made of the same roots and tells the other sacrifices, "Do not worry. Everyone." She turns to face the avatar and declares, "I will protect all of you." Baltsek just looks over his shoulder, looking a little annoyed, and a massive flash of light just explodes from his direction. He easily deflects her attack, saying, "Stop babbling nonsense, arrogant deer." He looks down on her with a smug grin and asks, "You, a nameless avatar from a remote place, dare to confront me with such arrogance?" But from the smoke, Nadia's voice replies, "I do have a name to boast of." The smoke clears and she stands there, transformed, saying, "My name is Nadia." Antlers have sprouted from her head as she declares, "I am the avatar of nature." Baltsek just lets out a laugh, saying, "Haha, quite a bold woman you are." But Nadia is not done, as more roots grow around her, glowing with power. Baltsek is analyzing her attack, thinking it is just an invisible shockwave as Nadia unleashes a massive root ball called Suchelis. He decides to just crush it with even greater force, and a huge explosion of green light erupts from his position. He looks down with this incredibly smug little grin on his face, and then he unleashes his own power, this massive dark winged aura, as he tells her, "Submit to me." We cut back to the arena where Ananta is still standing over the dead leopard. The crowd is buzzing, asking what that commotion from the White Lotus tree was. Ananta just stares grimly in the direction of the tree and back inside the temple. Nadia looks up with a determined face. Her massive root attack is completely shattered as she realizes my highest level of skill was defeated in a single blow. Baltzak just stands there looking down on her, thinking her attack was on a completely different level than before. Then a giant golden birdcage slams down from the ceiling, trapping our girl inside as he asks, "Is this pitiful talent all you have?" He makes a casual flicking motion with his fingers, and the cage comes crashing down hard, smashing Nadia into the ground. She looks up from the floor in complete disbelief, asking what is going on. And she sees these huge, shadowy winged figures appearing behind Baltzak, a close-up on one of the dark wings as she thinks a monster. One of the other sacrifices, a young boy with white hair, gets caught by a root and yells it is dangerous. Nadia looks over at him, her eyes wide with concern. She yells at the boy to watch out, as Baltzak just smirks from the side. And then we see what he is summoning, a terrifying skeletal bird monster with glowing red eyes as he commands it to serve the faithful followers of Yo. And we cut back to the arena, which is now just a field of carnage with the crowd going wild. Ananta stands over another spirit beast he has taken down, a white tiger, but wait, it is still alive, letting out a final growl, its eyes glowing with defiance. Ananta looks down at the dying creature and says, "You can hate me all you want." He tells it, "I will not turn my head away from your death," as he raises his axe, and with a final brutal swing, he puts the tiger out of its misery from the stands. The warrior leader Bernhard is being briefed by his soldier, "Your Grace. Bernhard, everyone is in chaos due to this unexpected turn of events." The soldier continues, "It is already clear as day that man will win. According to the original plan, Your Grace should have been the one to win." Ananta stands alone in the center of the arena, covered in blood. An announcer's voice booms out, "Dear citizens of cafes, the winner of the arena has finally been decided." As Bernhard's soldier asks him what he will do, the announcer declares that the winner will be presented with a branch of the White Lotus tree, and a group of white-robed guardians walks out. Bernhard just tells his men to calm down, saying the plan will proceed as scheduled. He declares, "No matter what, we will obtain the branch of the White Lotus tree," as Ananta stands before the guardians. Ananta just stares them down with this cold, intense expression. The lead guardian opens a ceremonial box, revealing the glowing branch inside. Ananta's blood-stained hand reaches out and grabs the branch. He holds it tightly, and his eyes are now glowing a vibrant green. He is definitely absorbing its power, and we hear Bernhard's voice finishing his thought, "At any cost." The scene shifts, and we see the white-haired boy and the girl whose sister was killed, hiding together in fear. And we cut back to Nadia. She is on her knees in a dark, root-filled area, panting for breath. She is clearly hurt. That terrifying skeletal bird monster is staring Nadia down as Baltzak asks her, "You determined to protect the sacrifices, even if it is out of stubbornness?" He stands there looking completely unimpressed, saying it is all in vain. He points to the people she trapped in her roots, who look absolutely terrified, saying, "Look at the pitiful state of those things." He just keeps twisting the knife, telling her the sooner we save them from their fear, the more merciful it will be. Nadia looks up at him, just disgusted, repeating his word salvation. The dark energy starts swirling around her again as Baltzak says, "Do not make me say the same thing again." She glares back, her anger boiling over as she tells him, "You are not a savior or anything." She completely loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs, "You are just a terrible demon who spreads death and fear." Baltzak's face is completely shadowed over, his eyes glowing this menacing gold. He turns away from her like she is nothing, saying, "Let me give you one piece of advice." Then he whips around, his face a terrifying shadowy grin as he points right at her and says, "True salvation begins with the gift of despair." The sacrifices start screaming as these dark, sharp tendrils erupt from the ground all around them, and just like that, one of the men is impaled straight through the chest. Oh my god, Nadia can only watch in absolute horror. A sea of black spikes bursts from the floor against a blood-red background as the people scream. The spikes even shoot up into Baltzak's own skeletal bird summon, piercing right through its jaw. What is he doing? And then we see it. Baltzak stands there with his arms wide open, absorbing the power as he yells, "May the wings of salvation be blessed." He has this absolutely insane look on his face as he screams glory to its servant. And we see the result. The people Nadia tried to save are all impaled on glowing red spikes. He just murdered them all. Nadia stands there in her full deer form amidst the swirling red energy of the dead. Outside the temple, someone sees the silhouette of that skeletal bird monster and says, "I see something through the trunk of the White Lotus tree." A massive screaming skull forms in the bloody energy as they ask, "What is that?" And back inside, Baltzak is just laughing his head off, saying this is a hellish wasteland where life and death coexist, unlike the immortal goddess. He holds his hand out, continuing, "Immune to death." While explaining death is the inevitable fate of all humans, we see the impaled sacrifices as he says only love can imbue this fleeting life with meaning. Nadia can only watch in absolute horror, completely powerless. Baltzak yells, "Behold," as the dead are reborn into these horrifying zombie-like creatures, calling them immortal warriors, the nourishment of the White Lotus tree. His skeletal bird summon rears its head, as he commands them to be reborn as the light that protects the sacred White Lotus tree. The monster lets out a powerful screech as Baltzak screams, "This is it. The grace of wings." Nadia looks up at him, the dark energy receding from her face as she asks, "How many people have you devoured?" And this absolute psycho just gives her a little smirk. She's completely trapped, bound tightly in some kind of thick furry root. Baltzak just stands over her and says counting is meaningless. He walks right past her, telling her with no end to your arrogance. He gives her a final smug look over his shoulder and asks what is your last word. Nadia struggles with everything she has, screaming to hell, but he is not even remotely bothered, saying that is a pathetic last gasp. He then pulls out this strange shield or mirror with a glowing red core. And a sphere of pure darkness just erupts from it, heading right for her. But just as that dark energy ball is about to hit her, a flash of light cuts through the air, and it slices clean through the head of one of Balzac's zombie monsters. Another figure in black flips through the air as the first one lands. Wait, who are these guys? We see the reflection in Balzac's eye. He is completely shocked by this interruption. And before he can react, a flash of red energy. A fist connects directly with his face, a solid hit. The punch sends him stumbling back, and the attacker lands. Hold on, is that Ananta? It is Ananta. He stands over the bound Nadia and tells her you are lucky to be alive, and he is holding the glowing white lotus branch he won in the arena. Balzac finally recognizes him in the branch. He says, White Lotus branch. He then asks, are you the winner of the arena? And we get a look at the entrance hall. Ananta absolutely tore through the temple guardians to get here. The place is littered with bodies. Balzac thinks to himself, I never thought someone would make it this far alone. Ananta takes in the scene of carnage Balzac created, and he is disgusted, asking what the hell is this? He then turns to Nadia, still tied up, and asks, hey you, where's the incarnation of the wings? Why are you bound by this thing? Oh, he thinks Nadia is the bad guy here. Balzac is getting seriously angry now, yelling how dare you trespass on my territory without permission. His dark aura flares up as he screams how dare you defile the incarnation of the great wings. His face is pure rage. He looks like he is about to explode as he says I will personally. The dark wings erupt behind him as he finishes his threat. Pluck out your F*** king tongue. Ananta is not impressed at all. He just says shut up and stares down the whole group. His entire body starts glowing with this intense red energy. His eyes burning as he finishes his sentence, are not the incarnation of wings. And we cut away from that intense standoff to the temple entrance where one of the white-robed guardians raises his sword. But he is immediately cut down by one of Bernhard's warriors. The invasion has begun. The guardians are getting completely overwhelmed by this surprise attack. And leading the charge is the big man himself, Bernhard, standing over the bodies of the fallen. He looks absolutely determined, covered in blood and ready for a war. He gives the order to his men, destroy them all. As they storm the temple, it is just absolute chaos, a full-on battle between Bernhard's forces and the temple's defenders. Bernhard pauses for a moment, looking down the long main hall. He thinks to himself I had planned to strike immediately, but the winner, who should be holding the branch, is nowhere to be seen. Could this be a trap? He looks down that long hallway and sees it as just a trail of bodies leading deeper inside, and that is when he realizes what happened. He thinks could it be? That man too, was he after the incarnation of the wings? He knows Ananta went on ahead, and we see what he sees at the end of the hall. It is the exact scene we just left. Ananta facing off against Balzac. Back in the room, Balzac is reeling from what Ananta just said, thinking I cannot believe he is not the incarnation of the wings. He looks at his own monstrous form, questioning everything as he thinks so all of this. Was it fake? Ananta just gives him this tired look and asks, are your eyes just for decoration? He continues to school him, saying, did you think of the reason why he was given such a grand name? The incarnation of the great wings. Ananta explains his symbol is 3 pairs of white wings, as this brilliant holy crest appears. He gestures to Balzac's dark feathery form and asks sarcastically the incarnation of great wings. Then he just completely dismisses him. What a joke, you do not even have proper wings. If you are going to impersonate, at least put in some effort. Man, the disrespect is real, and with his red aura flaring, Ananta delivers the final verbal blow. You are nothing but a worthless piece of trash with a big mouth. Balzac just stares blankly for a second before saying it is nothing but nonsense, not even worth a response. He is clearly rattled though because he immediately orders his zombie minions kill him, as they all rush towards Ananta. But our boy is not worried at all. His red arm just erupts with this dark energy, claws extending. And in a flash of red, he is gone. Balzac is completely shocked. He did not even see him move. Ananta is already standing right over Nadia, who is still trapped in those roots. She looks up at him with this desperate expression and asks, what are you waiting for? Ananta just glances over his shoulder. And he sees the 2 kids, the white-haired boy and the girl, still hiding in the corner. Nadia sees them too and screams at the top of her lungs, get out of here now. One of the zombies takes advantage of the distraction and lunges forward, its eyes glowing red. But Ananta just swings his arm in a blur of motion, and he just carves a path straight through the horde like they are nothing. That is when the giant skeletal bird monster opens its massive jaw. It lunges right for the kids. The attack slams into the ground with incredible force as one of them lets out a scream. The dust begins to settle, and we see Ananta's demonic red hand holding the monster's jaw open. He blocked it. Wait a second, he is not human anymore. He has transformed into this massive black and red dragon beast, and the 2 monsters just roar at each other in this epic standoff. This is getting crazy. The 2 monsters collide with a massive flash of power. Ananta's beast form sinks its claws deep into the skeletal bird's neck. He just overpowers the thing completely, shoving it back with raw strength. And we get a full look at his transformation. This terrifying red and black dragon-like creature with a single swipe. He just decapitates the giant monster, sending blood everywhere. The headless corpse of the bird summon crashes to the temple floor. Ananta's beast form just looks on, completely unfazed by what he just did. Baltsak gets slammed hard into the ground, reeling from the destruction of his summon. Struggles to get up, admitting through his pain, "I admit it, you're strong." He stands tall again, his form shifting back to that more regal bird-man look, saying Ananta is strong enough to witness the full power of the spirits. A massive cosmic sigil appears behind him as he gathers this immense spiritual energy in his hand. He declares, "Be crushed," as Nadia and the kids watch in terror, but his attack just shatters into nothing, and Baltsek is confused, thinking that was what crushed my attack. Oh, and we see Ananta's glowing red fist clenched tight. He just punched the magic away. Baltsak lunges forward in a rage, trying to claw at the beast's face. But Ananta is too fast, grabbing him by the head and stopping him cold as Baltsak calls him an ignorant fool. Ananta's other claw rears back, ready to finish this. But before he can strike, a white blur flies in and smacks him right in the face. The blow is strong enough to make even his massive beast form stumble back a step, and we see who it is, another bird person. But this one is pure white and looks way more holy, alongside a little white spirit. Wait, who is this now? Ananta's beast form stumbles back from the hit, roaring in fury at this new challenger. The white bird woman gracefully flies back up into the air, and Ananta's beast form just glares up at her, absolutely seething. Even Baltsek is just on the ground staring, completely confused about who this is. The newcomer dives back down in a flash of white, talons extended for another attack, and we get a proper look at her. Okay, she looks way more like a divine spirit than Baltsek ever did. She slams into the temple floor, creating a massive shockwave of force. Ananta's face is just pure rage. His eyes are glowing with this intense red light. And his whole body just explodes with this dark red energy as he starts to transform again. The white bird woman lands, looking completely shocked as she says it cannot be. She thinks how could he have inflicted such a wound in an instant, as Ananta crouches, his form becoming even more demonic. Whoa, look at him now. He is a full-on demon lord, covered in spikes and that terrifying red aura. He unleashes a massive swipe with his claws, sending a wave of red energy flying. The white bird woman summons these thick tree roots from the ground to block the attack, but it is not enough. The attack tears right through her defenses and slices her wing. She lets out a piercing scream of agony, and the little spirit's master, the white-haired girl, she screams, "Arg, damn it, the attack worked." She is pissed her summon got hit. Meanwhile, Baltsek is still on the floor trying to act tough, yelling, "How dare you, you lowly creature." Ananta's terrifying new form just looms over him, completely ignoring the trash talk. He just reaches down and grabs Baltsek by the head, lifting him up like he is nothing. He is so done with this guy. Ananta's demon form just glares down at him with a glowing red eye, but Baltsek gets to his feet, his shadowy form flaring as he yells, "You, who knows not the fear of spirits." He then dashes forward in a blur of motion, kicking up dust from the temple floor. He gets right in Ananta's face and declares, "I will show you firsthand the difference in our levels, which can never be crossed." But then we cut away to a bright blue sky. What is this? The sky suddenly begins to crack like it is made of glass, and something breaks through from the other side, shattering this reality. A dark silhouette of a crowned figure appears in a swirling purple portal. We get a close-up on this new guy, a horned being in a white and gold robe who says, "I see." He's looking down from the heavens at the world below as a shard of the broken sky falls past him, and we are back in the temple. Baltsek is spreading his wings yelling, "Behold, these glorious wings." He glares with his glowing red eye thinking to himself, "I am," before he can finish his thought. Ananta's beast form smashes him into its own spiky body. Baltsek is just impaled and bleeding out against Ananta's monstrous form. Ananta's beast just stands there, having tossed the birdman aside. But the white bird woman is back, her hand glowing with golden energy. She slams her attack right into the back of Ananta's neck. Ananta's beast form opens its massive jaw, filled with rows and rows of teeth, and it just chomps down on the white bird woman, trapping her completely. Oh my god. Baltsek is on the ground, looking completely unhinged with a broken face and a sick smile as he says, "I will make you into minced meat." He then launches himself forward in a flurry of dark feathers. Ananta's demonic red form just waits for the impact, glowing with power. The two of them collide in a massive explosion that shakes the entire temple. The white-haired girl screams out his name in terror, Ananta. The collision sends out a massive shockwave of dark energy. Baltsek grits his teeth, looking absolutely furious. His dark feather attack slams right into Ananta's side, but Ananta's beast form just glows with this intense red power, and he just explodes outwards with a massive burst of energy. The force of the blast sends Baltsek flying backwards through the air. He crashes to the ground a bloody mess and curses, "Damn bastard." And when the dust settles, Ananta has landed. But Baltsek's eyes go wide in shock, because Ananta has transformed again into this smaller, more compact demonic form as Baltsek yells, "You, what is that appearance?" Even the summoner girl is stunned, thinking his appearance has changed again, and before anyone can react, Ananta is just a blur of red and black. He moves so fast he is just a streak across the temple floor, and we see the result. Baltsek's entire torso is just ripped to shreds. Baltsek is in complete disbelief, thinking his speed is so fast that it is beyond human comprehension. He wonders is his ability to regenerate and transform his body. He realizes if so, then there is no way to escape his overwhelming power. I can only be crushed by his might before I can even react. He just stands there defeated as Ananta's new form looms in the distance. The white-haired girl peeks over the rubble and lets out a terrified squeak. Ananta just stands over the broken floor, a terrifying silhouette of power. But then massive roots erupt from the ground trying to impale him as he leaps into the air. He dodges the roots in midair as they shoot past him. They slam into the temple walls with explosive force, and we see what looks like another summon, a massive gray dragon with a glowing red eye. The girl thinks to herself, no matter how many times I attack him, he will always be able to recover, as long as he has the white lotus tree branch. She realizes the longer the battle continues, the more disadvantaged I will be. Her new dragon summon looks up towards the ceiling of the temple, and these dark shadowy spikes begin to rain down from above. The dragon just watches for a moment, its body pulsing with red power, then it smashes its hand into the floor, sending out a shockwave. And it just launches itself straight up like a missile. Both Baltsac and the girl look up completely stunned by this move. The dragon summon barrels towards the ceiling surrounded by red energy. It smashes its fist right into the stone ceiling, cracking it wide open, and it punches a hole straight through the roof. The entire section of the ceiling breaks loose and starts falling right towards Ananta, and we see Ananta is caught in the roots from before, unable to escape, but when the dust settles, the roots have formed a protective shell around him, and he asks, were you hoping to have me get crushed to death by the ceiling? The dragon summon looks down as Ananta continues, were you planning to pull some kind of stupid stunt? He glares up at it with this terrifying look in his eyes and says, until now. And then he asks a very pointed question, how many lives have you taken? The massive dragon summon looks down and says, I am tired of it. I have devoured so many that it is meaningless to count. It opens its massive jaw and lets out a guttural roar. A huge wave of dark purple energy erupts from its body as it declares, by the weight of death that you have devoured. The energy swirls around the dragon, filling the entire temple. We get a close-up on its terrifying skull-like face as it says you will be hunted by. A glowing portal opens up on the temple floor as it finishes its sentence, the spirits of the dead. And we see who it is talking to, a very confused and beaten-up Baltsac. A massive horde of undead spirits and monsters erupts from the portal and swarms the bird man. They fly up and start grabbing onto him as he yells, what the? He is completely covered in them, trying to fight them off and screaming, get off me. Even the summoner girl looks on confused, asking what is this? As Baltsac yells for them to get away, the spirits claw at his face, tearing into him as he lets out a blood-curdling scream. And from a distance, we just see a tidal wave of bodies completely engulfing him. They begin to drag him across the floor towards the dragon summon. The summoner girl reveals her plan, yelling sacrifice offering, living sacrifice offering. A bright light erupts from the pile of bodies, signaling the start of the ritual. The girl stands with her arms wide as her dragon summon behind her begins to glow with immense power. The dragon is now bathed in this blinding golden light, its form changing completely. The girl lets out a little squeak, seemingly surprised by the sheer amount of power being unleashed. And when the light fades, the summon has transformed into this golden armored godlike being standing over the husk of its former body. This new summon is a dark-skinned being with white hair, horns, and glowing blue eyes. The summoner girl just stares up at the massive figure, completely shocked by what she has unleashed. The golden god looks down at her and asks, did you enjoy your journey? But then a hand lands on her shoulder, and it is Baltsac. He is still standing. She turns around completely stunned to see him there. Baltsac just looks up at the summon and says, your welcome is a bit harsh. Bihiron, wait, he knows this guy. He continues speaking, saying I am here to escort you as his shredded clothes fall away. And he looks completely different now, like a whole new person as he finishes, you are the incarnation of wings. And then we cut away completely to this massive glowing tree at sunset, as a voice says I am reporting as scheduled. We see a girl with pink hair and bunny ears on an old-timey phone, saying she has witnessed a rift in space above the white lotus tree. Her little lizard buddy peeks out from behind a tree as she continues, if Lord Ananta had visited the temple, he would have encountered the enemy by now. She is reporting about Baltsac and his new golden god summon, saying the fact that the one who serves the wings has appeared. She gets this creepy look on her face as she finishes that. The avatar of the wings is present in the city now, and we are back in the temple. Ananta is standing there, his demonic form gone, and he is back to his original white-haired self. He looks down, his body still covered in dust and grime from the battle. We see a close-up of a massive beating heart, glowing with red energy. The summoner girl clutches her chest, completely stunned by what she is seeing. She watches as Baltsac in his new form walks past the golden god, and she thinks, who is that? Ananta is on the ground, clutching his head and groaning in pain. But then his eyes snap open in complete and utter shock. He looks up at Baltsac's new form and asks, why are you here? Wait, he knows this guy. Baltsac turns to face him with this unsettling smile and asks, did you forget me? He glares down at Ananta, his face contorting with rage as he spits, how could I forget you? The ruthless former master who ripped the wings of his loyal servant. Oh my god, Ananta was his master. Ananta just looks back at him calmly and says, the reason I took your wings was to punish you for being intoxicated by false glory. As he speaks, the golden god Behiron grabs Baltsek by the shoulder, making him grunt in pain. Ananta continues his lecture, saying wings are a divine providence that has been granted only to those who were meant to soar through the sky from the beginning. Baltsek looks up, his face a bloody mess of fury, and he asks, "Is that all you have to say? To me, who revered you more than anyone else?" And he just screams in absolute anguish, "I sacrificed thousands and tens of thousands of lives to create this hideous body. To me, who wanted to regain my wings somehow." Ananta just places a hand on the wall behind him and says, "Foolish Baltsac." He looks at his former servant with cold disappointment and adds, "How petty." And then we get this flash of a memory, a hand reaching out to a screaming figure being consumed by light. The golden god Behiron stands there as Ananta seems to be absorbing some kind of power. We see a massive pile of bodies, the sacrifices Baltsac was talking about, and we get a close-up of a monstrous eye as a memory begins to play. It is a vast desert landscape, seen from inside some kind of ruin. A much younger Ananta stands there looking out at the sunset saying, "Boy, I have a dream." He is talking to a young boy who has to be Baltsac, as he continues to find the horizon of a world that connects this world to the land of the gods. "I will never stop until I achieve my dream." He turns to the boy with this determined look on his face and says, "Even if it means." The young Baltsac just stares up at him in awe as Ananta finishes his sentence, "Turning everyone in this world against me." And then the memory flashes to a village completely engulfed in flames. We see the charred remains of people on the ground. Oh man. But then we see a woman with a gentle smile who tells him, "Ananta, have a safe journey," and the very next image is a person being burned alive. Was that her? A massive red eye snaps open as someone lets out a pained scream, and we are back in the present. The golden god Behiron looks down and says, "White lotus tree is a tree with a fancy name, but it is nothing more than that. It seems that your wish was irrelevant again." But Ananta holds up the branch and corrects him, saying it is more a combination of the power of the branches and the divine tree. It is a shameful imitation that is not even worthy of being compared to the world tree. He turns his back on the defeated Baltsac and says, "But," and suddenly Baltsac just collapses to his knees, clutching his chest. What is happening to him? Ananta floats there with these ethereal wings of light as he says, "You had forgotten about an interesting connection." But Baltsek is not down. A massive demonic claw bursts from his back, and he begins to transform into some kind of massive draconic beast. Whoa, he is a full-on monster now, a terrifying winged creature of pure red energy. He unleashes a massive wave of power that rips through the temple. It is all headed straight for Ananta, who is just standing there on the roots. The energy erupts in a massive explosion, but the golden god Behiron is standing in front of Ananta, blocking the entire attack. Wait, he is protecting him. He looks back over his shoulder at Ananta and says, "Finally." And with glowing eyes he finishes, "I found you." The monster that was once Baltsac just lets out a furious growl. It snarls at Behiron, its red eyes burning with hatred. It launches its own attack. A wave of dark red energy spikes, but Behiron just casually catches the monster's head with one hand, stopping it dead in its tracks. And then he counters with a massive punch, a flash of golden light slamming into the beast. The monster reels back, clearly stunned by the blow. Behiron just looks at him and commands, "Reveal your name," but the beast just growls back in defiance. The golden god looks at his own glowing fist and says, He gets into a fighting stance and says, "It seems like there is no point in talking." Baltsac's monster form lets out a furious roar, and he throws a massive punch right at the golden god. But as the dust settles, Ananta just watches on, completely unfazed. Then a hand grabs his arm and a masked man appears behind him, and we flash back to a bloody axe being held by someone. A large warrior swings it with all his might. But he stops mid-swing with a look of pure shock. He looks over at Ananta and asks, "You will never give up, will you?" Ananta calls him out by name, the experienced Bernhardt. Back in the present, the golden god casually blocks a hit from some random monster. He grabs it by the head with ease. And he looks past it at the newcomers, yelling, "I will tear you apart." He is absolutely seething with rage, declaring, "Anyone who stands in my way, I will tear them all apart and kill them." And he unleashes a powerful blast of energy from his hand. Meanwhile, Baltsac's monster form is on the ground convulsing. The red energy twists and reshapes his body. He lets out a guttural roar as he transforms into a two-headed dragon. Everyone just looks on, completely stunned by what is happening. And Ananta now stands before two massive shadow dragons. Ananta just smirks and says, This is also a welcome face." He recognizes one of them, calling it by its legendary name, the black dragon Azidahaka. But then we cut away to this desolate fiery valley, with a lone figure standing in the distance. And we see it as some guy with black hair who looks completely confused. He asks, "What is this place? When did I end up here?" A voice tells him it is a bad place, and he thinks to himself, "I need to get out of here." He continues his thought, "Once I am out, where should I go?" He tries to recall what happened, and his eyes snap open in shock. The voice continues, "The despicable object of your revenge who took everything from you," as a massive dragon appears before him. The man looks up at the beast and says, "You are." He recognizes it, yelling out its name, Azidahaka. Wait, he knows this dragon too. The dragon's massive red eye stares down at him as it says, "Cursed mortal." It continues taunting him, saying, crying out endlessly. Consumed by your rage and back in the present, Baltsek's two-headed dragon form lunges forward with a furious roar. It swings a massive claw right down at Ananta. The attack smashes into the ground as Ananta dodges out of the way. The golden god Behiron watches from the side and asks, has he lost his mind and gone berserk? The dragon head just snarls, its eyes glowing with pure rage. Behiron clenches his golden gauntlet. He powers up his fist and says how pathetic, but the two-headed beast is already preparing its own attack. Its mouth's glowing with fire, and it unleashes a massive double fire breath attack, a huge wave of destruction. The golden god Behiron meets the attack head-on with a massive punch of his own, and his golden energy just plows right through the dragon's fire breath, causing a massive explosion that engulfs the entire area. Behiron stands there completely untouched by the blast, his wings spread wide, and we are back in that memory with Ananta, who looks at the warrior and says, even as you might become the spark of a blade, you remain unmoved. He looks at the blood-soaked Bernhardt and continues, you are an enemy, but you are admirable, Bernhardt. Bernhardt just yells back, I do not have time to wait for my comrades to join me. He charges forward declaring, I will fight to the death here, and he swings that giant axe with a furious battle cry, but his swing is stopped dead in its tracks by a single hand. Bernhardt just stares in complete disbelief. Ananta is holding the blade of the axe with his bare hand, stopping the full force of the blow, and with a simple clench of his fist, the axe just shatters into pieces. Ananta looks down at him with those cold eyes and commands go down. Bernhardt collapses to the ground screaming in agony. His body starts to contort and change, turning into some kind of shadow beast and back in the present. Ananta stands over the masked man who is on the ground. Wait, so that masked guy was Bernhardt. Ananta looks down at him and says, you are trembling with fear. He looks at his former enemy, now with his ethereal wings out, and says, you look so different from your former self. Bernhardt just glares up at him through his mask and spits out, right. He thinks back to a woman with blood splattered on her face, her eyes wide with shock. Ananta descended from the sky back then too, with massive white wings like an angel, as Bernhardt could only look up from the ground, and then the memory shifts again, to a man holding a hand to his chest saying, this is proof that you are also the chosen vessel of the great tree. A young boy with white hair looks up at him and asks, branches. The man stands over the kneeling boy and begins to explain the branches are. He holds up a glowing twig and says they are miracles that transcend the boundaries of human form and grant superhuman powers. He holds the branch in his palm as it glows with a soft blue light, talking about his own desire to find the horizon. And then a massive surge of dark energy explodes behind him. The energy transforms into golden lightning that crackles and fills the entire space. A different boy with blonde hair is surrounded by this power. As the man's voice explains, this was his brother, who was created with the lives of thousands and was imprisoned in a cage. The man looks down at the terrified boy and asks him what is your name, but the boy's fear vanishes, replaced by a crazed grin and glowing red eyes as he answers Ziz. A foot slams down hard onto the ground, and suddenly Ziz is being attacked, as the massive jaws of a beast snap at him. The creature is a colossal black dragon with burning red eyes. But Ziz, now clad in armor, effortlessly blocks the bite with a crescent of golden light, sending the dragon reeling. He then launches himself into the air like a golden comet. The massive dragon lets out a furious roar, enveloped in a dark red aura. And we see someone else is watching this fight, a powerful-looking man with dark skin and golden armor. The dragon spreads its massive demonic wings, ready for another round. The golden wing slams down with incredible force, and the massive dragon is sent flying backwards over the temple. Ziz just glares after it, his eyes glowing with that same red energy. The man places a hand on his shoulder, telling him do not be afraid, but the dragon recovers mid-air, charging up a massive swirling ball of fire. It unleashes the attack, a huge sphere of destructive energy. The name of the attack is Celestial Jade Ablaze, and it looks absolutely devastating. As the fireball plummets towards them, the man says, how dare you look down on us? He raises his own hand, which is now glowing with a bright blue aura, and declares there is no place for you to stand in the sky. He unleashes a massive blast of pure light energy straight up at the fireball. The dragon looks on in shock as the man commands, let there be light. A colossal pillar of light erupts from the ground, completely overwhelming the dragon's attack. The beam just keeps going, piercing the heavens, and then we cut away to some snake-like person on a call, says, the situation is over. They continue their report. Shortly after the battle on the top of the White Lotus tree, the voiceover says, I confirmed the destruction of the White Lotus tree. As we see the giant tree crumbling into dust, it was destroyed by the power of the incarnation wings, and we see a vortex of dark energy. The report concludes our trump card, the incarnation of revenge has been defeated, as we see that black-haired guy lying bloody and broken on the ground, and then we cut to this desolate desert wasteland, where this tiny little red lizard thing is getting chased down by a pack of wild dogs. And these things look absolutely vicious. As they close in on their prey, they are practically salivating, ready to tear this little guy apart. One of them lunges forward, its jaws wide open for the kill, but in a flash of movement, a blade comes down and splits the dog's head clean in two. Whoa. A voice yells back off, as a foot slams down right in front of the lizard, and we see it as some kid with a makeshift axe ready to throw down. He brings his weapon down hard on another one of the beasts. The rest of the pack immediately starts to back away, and the boy just lets out a furious roar, his eyes glowing with intensity. He stands over his kill, glaring down the remaining animals with a simple HMPH. He slings his weapon over his shoulder, the threat is handled. He turns to leave, but the little lizard he saved is still there. He goes to sit down by a rock to catch his breath, but he realizes the little creature has followed him. He looks over at it and yells you, "Why do you keep following me?" He looks it over and says you do not even seem to have any edible parts. He just throws his hands up in annoyance, yelling, "Why do not you just go away?" But then the little lizard's mouth starts to glow with fire, and it spits out a tiny fireball that morphs into some kind of fiery staff right in front of the kid. He stammers out Dr. Breath, realizing what he is seeing. You cannot be. His eyes are wide with shock and he starts trembling. The realization hits him and his face fills with pure terror. He stumbles backwards, trying to get away from the tiny creature, but just then, a massive shadow completely engulfs him. He looks up to see a colossal stone monster staring down at him with a single glowing eye. The kid lets out a terrified scream and starts running for his life, with the little lizard now on his head, and we see the scale of this thing as it chases the tiny boy across the desert. The monster's massive hand smashes the ground, sending the kid flying. He lands hard but gets back up, ready to fight, when he spots something in the distance. It is a person in a black cloak sitting under a dead tree. The kid thinks a person, but he has more immediate problems as the giant rock golem towers over him. He glares back at the beast, thinking, "Are you going to chase until the end?" He grits his teeth and yells, "Fine, bring it on," as a mysterious hand pats the little lizard on its back. The boy gets into a fighting stance with his axe, the lizard perched on his shoulder, and says, "Come at me." His eye glows with power as he declares, "I will show you the power of the Black Dragon's descendant." Wait, he is a descendant of Azidahaka, but before he can attack, the cloaked figure appears right in front of him, blocking his path. The figure pulls down their hood, revealing they have white hair. The man has long flowing white hair and these incredibly sharp blue eyes. He seems to have arrived on some kind of large beast covered in a cloak. His eyes almost seem to glow as he looks down at the boy. The creature he rode in on starts to move away, and the kid just stares up, completely frozen in place. The man gives him a calm smile and asks, "Young man, are you okay?" The kid looks up at him as a voiceover begins, "That day, after meeting you, my life completely changed." We see them standing together, and the size difference is just massive. And the scene changes to a peaceful-looking village full of teepees next to a river. A man from the village spots the boy and calls out, "Oh, Ananta. Wait, this kid is Ananta." The man asks, "Why is he always wandering around like this?" The villagers see him walking back with the white-haired stranger, wondering who he is, but suddenly a loud voice screams, "Ananta," and the kid looks absolutely terrified. A young woman with the same golden eyes storms up to him demanding, "Where have you been for so long?" She grabs his face and starts scolding him, "Did not wander around the spirit realm alone again. Did you? What if something big happens? What are you going to do?" Then she points to the little lizard on his head, and on top of that, "Where did you bring this strange creature from?" Ananta tries to explain, "No, this guy followed me on his own." She finally notices the tall man standing there and asks, "But the person next to you?" Ananta says, "Master, this is Ashita. She is my Nuna," but as he introduces her, Ashita suddenly starts coughing into her hand. She pulls her hand away from her mouth, and it is covered in black blood. "Oh no," Ananta immediately panics, yelling, "Nuna, are you okay?" But she just tells him not to worry and to go inside, and we see this entire memory reflected in someone's eye, watching it all play back. So they take the white-haired man, Master Ryu, back to the village and lead him to one of the main teepees. Inside, they offer him a plate of food and tell him to make yourself comfortable. The village chief explains it is not often that we welcome outsiders, but says it would not be right to mistreat someone who has helped a member of the tribe. He tells Ryu to rest as much as you want and then leave. Master Ryu. Ryu kneels down respectfully and says, "Thank you for the hospitality, Chief." He then glances over and sees that little red lizard just chilling on a rug next to him. His sharp blue eyes seem to glow for just a second. The chief then announces Ananta will assist Master Ryu during his stay, and Ananta is just shocked, yelling, "Me." One of the other villagers immediately grabs Ananta by the head, telling him he is being disrespectful. The chief then gets to the point and asks Ryu, but more importantly, "Master, what brought you to this remote wilderness?" Ryu just gives this calm smile and says, "I am an explorer," explaining he is researching customs, geography, and incarnations. The chief repeats incarnations. As Ryu pulls out a scroll, he unrolls a massive map, pointing out all the places he has been, from the Empire in the east to the Western Forest. He says for years he has chased legends, and now he is chasing the story of a deity passed down in this crimson desert, and you can see Ananta is listening in. The chief asks him the deity you are searching for, and with a dead serious look, Ryu says the name Azidahaka. He begins to explain that there were beings who were granted their power by the gods. And we see these epic silhouettes of different creatures. He calls them one of the 6 incarnations, and says that among them, one is called the greatest and strongest. It is a being that is revered with fear and worship. He calls it the demonic incarnation, revealing a massive sleeping black dragon, the black dragon, Azidahaka. Wait a second, that is the kid's ancestor. The scene cuts back to the village where a pot of something is boiling over a fire. Ashita holds a piece of bread and explains this is a powerful herbal medicine from the Celestial Empire. She continues saying it boosts the body's immune and can help with vitality and strengthening the body. She takes a bite and smiles brightly, saying, I feel much better already. Thanking Master Ryu, Ryu tells her do not push yourself and take some rest as he prepares to leave. Outside, Ananta asks him where are you planning to go today, and Ryu says he's going downstream for his investigation. The kid turns and shouts back towards the village Nuna, I will help the master again today and come back. His sister calls out his name Ananta, and with a gentle smile she tells him be careful on your journey. He gives a huge toothy grin and yells okay, I will be back, with the little lizard on his shoulder. So Ananta and Ryu walk off, with the rest of the tribe watching them go. Ananta takes one last look back at his home, a little bit of worry on his face. And we get a wide shot of the two of them journeying through the massive desert canyon. Some time has passed and they are now sitting by a campfire. Ananta asks it has been a week since you arrived in the village. Right, as the little lizard goes to town on a fish. Ananta asks is there any progress with your investigation? Ryu looks down thoughtfully and says there has not been much progress, explaining he has only found fragmented histories about the descendants of the Black Dragon. He tells the kid that in the past, his ancestors suffered from foreign invasions. And we see this epic image of the Black Dragon itself. Ryu says they were able to defeat the invaders with the help of the Black Dragon, and that the tribe are descendants who revere it. Ananta just casually eats his cooked fish as Ryu finishes that is all I have learned about the descendants of the Black Dragon. He adds that the villagers seem to be hiding something, but Ananta just grins and offers some fish to his little buddy, while Ryu wonders aloud, well, maybe it is just my imagination. But then Ryu turns to Ananta and asks are you still secretly going out hunting without your Nuna's knowledge? He points to the bandages on the kid's arm saying I tried to act like I did not notice, but I have noticed more wounds on you lately. Ananta looks away and admits a secret from my Nuna, master, adding that he does not want to cause her unnecessary worries. He puts a hand on his chest and explains winter will soon come to the desert, so they need to hunt while they can. We get a flashback to a smiling baby Ananta as he explains in my family, we do not have parents. He says they both passed away from an illness when he was a baby, and we see his young sister holding him. Ananta says that is why my Nuna is overly protective of me, and he smiles thinking about how she still sees him as a child. Ryu just listens as the kid says that is why he has to prepare gifts and offerings. Ryu then asks is not it burdensome for you, but Ananta just flashes a huge grin and shouts not at all, saying it is all for the sake of his only family. Back at the fire, Ananta changes the subject saying well enough about the heavy talk, and asks why is the master investigating the first incarnations. Ryu looks at him seriously and says to find the divine revelations, as he holds up some kind of feather. He explains that these are the source that contains the divine powers of the 6 incarnations, and we see these glowing artifacts, a heart, fangs, an eye. He says their power transcends human understanding, and that if someone were to obtain all of them, his eyes glow as he finishes, that person will undoubtedly become an entity capable of seeing beyond this world. Then he suddenly switches topics asking Ananta and that old scale. Ananta looks up confused and repeats old scale. Ryu leans in close, his eyes intense, and says you know something, do not you? Oh, he is cornering him. The kid stumbles back completely flustered yelling well, that, he admits it is a secret from others, explaining it is a story he heard from his Nuna when he was young, and we see this terrifying image of a massive dragon breathing fire as he says they say the enraged black dragon did not stop at defeating the invaders, but continued until it turned the red wasteland into ashes. He explains that to restrain itself, the black dragon entrusted one of its scales to their ancestors. And after extracting that power, it fell into a deep slumber, so their ancestors built a temple in this massive canyon, calling it the Dragon's Gorge. It is a sacred place where they enshrine the dragon and task the village's elite warriors with protecting the scale from evildoers. Back in the present, Ananta puts his hand up to stop Ryu, saying I am sorry, master. He looks at him seriously and says even as your student, it is difficult for me to go any further. Ryu just looks down, taking in what the boy is saying. Ananta offers a compromise, saying the chief will let him stay, and he can guide him somewhere else instead. Ryu turns away and says in that case, there is a place I'd like for you to guide me to, and so their journey continues to another part of the vast desert. Little Dr. Breath scurries across the orange sands. It pops up for a second, looking around. Ananta holds up a small bird for his companion, telling him we made this far, so stay strong. But then he looks up at something in the distance and lets out a confused huh. They are standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out at a breathtaking sunset over the endless desert. Ananta glances over at his master, who suddenly says, young man, I have a dream, with a determined look. Ryu explains his dream is to find the horizon of a world that connects the lands of the gods. He tells Ananta until the day I fulfill that dream, I will never cease my footsteps. And he gets this intense look in his eyes as he adds even if it means. Ananta just stares back as Ryu finishes his sentence, turning everyone in this world against me. The kid is completely stunned, asking what do you mean? But Ryu just looks down at him and asks have you never doubted it before? Ryu looks at him and drops an absolute bombshell, the cause of your Nuna's illness. In truth, it is because of the curse of the black dragon. The kid is completely stunned, asking what? As Ryu continues how much do you know about the black dragon? He says its true name is Azidahaka, explaining it is a servant of the demonic god who rules over curses and death. Ryu walks towards him asking why an incarnation serving an evil god would ever entrust divine revelations to mortals without a hidden reason. And then he reveals the devastating truth. The black dragon used you all to pass on the curse of the demonic deity carried by the divine revelations. He explains that this curse is the real reason his parents died from their illness and why his sister has been suffering for so long. Ryu tells him to put all the blame on the black dragon because every bit of his family's pain was caused by it, and Ananta just glares.